A camera, B camera. Let's go. Hey everyone, Cole Capper in here. Thank you for stopping by for another video. Today, I want to talk about audio for video. This is going to be a complete overview and a complete guide to every single part of how I handle audio in my videos. So we're going to talk about microphones and mic placement. We're going to talk about like preamps and get a little bit into camera gear. And then we are also going to jump in and take a look at how I mix audio for my videos. I'm going to show you all my plugins, my EQs, my compressors. I'm going to show you every single detail. So let's start with talking about how I actually record this kind of talking head shot, because the majority of videos that you watch here on YouTube are usually based around dialogue. So as you can see here, I've got an overhead microphone pointed right at me. And the first most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose and the microphone at the same time. So it's really, really close. This is one of the things that I overlooked in the beginning. I didn't realize how close you could get a microphone and still be out of the shot with an overhead microphone like this. Now, the most common microphones for video and for dialogue in a situation like this are shotgun microphones. Now, I'm using this Sennheiser 416 here. It's an absolutely incredible microphone. I've went through a ton of different microphones trying to find one that not only sounded incredible, but also complemented my voice and had the maximum amount of rejection possible. I'll put links down below so you can check out any of the products in this video if you want to learn more or see prices or all that kind of stuff. So this Sennheiser 416, one of the coolest parts about it is the level of rejection that it has. So this is a shotgun microphone. It is phantom powered and it just sounds incredible. It has a big, full, warm sound while still having tons of clarity. So this is the 416 completely on its own with no processing, no EQ, no compression whatsoever. This is just the microphone. And then this is what it sounds like after I've put on my compression and my EQ, my multiband compression, and my limiting, my whole chain that we're gonna talk about here in a second. Now, in terms of mic position, not only do you want it as close as humanly possible, but I've also found they're so directional that where you point it makes a big difference. And so just rotating this 1 inch up and down is a huge difference. And what I've found to give the most full sound is to point it probably like at your collarbone here, like right at the top of your chest at the base of your neck. And what this does, a lot of the resonance, a lot of the thickness in your voice actually comes from your chest. If you point it halfway between your mouth and your chest, you get kind of the most full, the biggest sound possible. And so I'm really particular about trying to point that directly at the bottom of my neck here. So every shot that you've seen like this on this channel for a while now has been recorded with the Sennheiser 416, and it gets run directly into a Tascam hard disk recorder. Now, the reason why you would do this in this sort of situation is to give a good microphone pre to this high quality Sennheiser microphone, because you can't plug the microphone straight into the camera. So what's incredible about this Tascam, this is the DR600 Mark II, and the reason why I've chosen this one, it has pretty good mic preamps in it. They sound great. You're hearing them right now, obviously, but also its feature set where it has a couple different options for outputs to camera. So I get to plug the microphone straight into it and then run a cable out the microphone into the microphone jack of the camera itself, so that way I'm not editing two different files. It goes right into the camera, so when I'm making jump cuts like this, it's just way better to cut one video file up instead of having to worry about an audio file and a video file separately. So that's one of the reasons why I chose this Tascam recorder, is because of the camera outputs. It's just super convenient. Now, the other reason why I chose this Tascam recorder is because it's actually a 4-channel input. It's a 4-channel recorder, but it has 2 XLR inputs. Now, this is important for me for when I do tutorial style videos, because I need to capture that Pro Tools output somehow. This Tascam recorder is how I do that, and we are gonna get more into that in a minute. Again, links down below for both the microphone and the recorder, so you can go check them out if you want. Okay, so let's jump into Final Cut Pro and take a look at how I actually mix this dialogue, and then we'll talk about how I mix music along with it, and then we'll talk about how I actually use the Tascam recorder to capture a Pro Tools out for my mix tutorials. So for those of you that don't know, I have another YouTube channel channel going over the more technical side of things, technology-based stuff, computers, cell phones, making videos, camera gear, lenses, color grading. Now, in a day or two, there will be a video over there going over how I make videos, the color grading, the lenses, the gear that I use. So be sure to jump over there and subscribe so that way you can be there when that video comes up if you're interested in like color grading and like the video side of how I actually do all this. Now, for mixing this, the first thing we got to talk about is how I actually listen to it. Now, I have gotten to the point where I use these Shure 425 earbuds, and there's a couple reasons why I use these. One, they have replaceable cables. Two, they're pretty affordable. Three, they sound good. Four, they fit in my camera bag really easy. And this is kind of the most important part, is that when I'm out traveling or I just want to go edit a video at a coffee shop or whatever, it's really hard to fit a pair of headphones in my camera bag with all my camera gear and my hard drives and my laptop and all that stuff. They also function as an earplug, so I can edit on an airplane or something really easy with these because it's noise isolating as well. I think they're about 28 or 29 dB noise reduction in addition to being able to monitor. I'll put a link down below so you can go check these out as well. I also like that they're pretty low profile and they just slip right over your ears and like no one can tell that you're wearing them like so. I mean, that's pretty low profile. So here is a clip that you just saw from the beginning of this video, unedited of course, and here's what the raw audio sounds like. So as you can see here, this is a Sennheiser. So as you can see here, and as you can also see, I mess up a lot and I cut a lot out of it. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do here is I'm a big fan of the Fabfilter plugins, as you guys know from watching my music content. Love Fabfilter. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the EQ, the Pro Q3. We're just gonna drag it right on the video. Now, what we get, if we go over here, we can see that this is our EQ. Now, there's a couple things that I'm gonna do. The first thing I'm gonna do, without even listening to it, is I'm gonna high pass somewhere around 80, 90, 100 hertz, somewhere in there. And what this does is this gets rid of all the low boominess, all the mud. Now, the very next thing that I'm gonna do is listen. So let's take a listen. So as you can see here, I've got an overhead microphone pointed right at me. And so there's a couple things that I want to happen with this. The first thing that I want to happen is I want my voice to have a lot more low end, probably like you're hearing right now. So let's grab a peak and let's push it up while we're listening. Most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose and the microphone at the same time. So it's really, really close. This is one of the things that I overlooked in the beginning. I didn't realize how close you could get a microphone. That sounds much better to me. Now, I like kind of a narrow peak here in the bottom end because I don't want to boost the overall low end of the vocal. I just want to grab a particular frequency range and get it thicker. So in this case, it's right around 100 hertz, and I'm just boosting that pretty narrowly to taste until I think it sounds nice and warm. The next thing on this vocal that I want to take care of is there's a little bit of low mid muddiness. So let's take a listen to that. Most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible. Yeah, this frequency range right here, like this 400 hertz, we're just gonna pull that down a couple dB because that's kind of where the muddy, boxy part of a dialogue is. So let me turn that off and I'll put it back in while we're listening. But just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose. I like that better. It's just a little cleaner and helps the vocal sound a little bit more clear without actually boosting top end. Now, we are gonna boost just a tiny bit of top end as well. So let's do that. And the microphone at the same time. So it's really, really close. This is one of the things that I overlooked in the beginning. I didn't realize how close you could get a microphone and still be out of the depending on your microphone. That's one of the reasons why I use the Sennheiser 416 so much for this kind of stuff, is because that's kind of all I need to do for an EQ. To me, that sounds great. It's thick, it's clear, it's got plenty of high end, and that's it. Some microphones that I've used, you have to really kind of mangle the audio to get to this end result. So the next thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna grab the Fabfilter Multiband, and we're gonna put that on. Now this is kind of one of my tricks to making dialogue or any vocal sound good. I do this when mixing audio too. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna create a bunch of bands. Let's do a high band, and then let's do a upper mid, and then it's running a little slow because I'm screen recording while editing video. And then, so a low mid band, and then let's do a low band. Now what I want is to spread these bands around so they cover particular parts of the audio. I want this low band to only take care of that low end that we boosted. I want this low mid band to only cover that muddy kind of boxy range that we were talking about, that I cut out a little bit. And then I want this upper mid band to take care of all the nasal qualities in my voice. And then I want this top end to touch all of the sibilants, like that. And so what we're gonna do is on each one of these bands with the Fabfilter, we're gonna pull the attack all the way down, the release all the way down. We're gonna run the knee all the way hard. And then let's do that on all of them. And what this does is this kind of makes the compressor, especially for how subtly we're gonna hit it, this makes it very transparent, so you don't hear the compressor like grab and release on the vocal. It just levels everything out. Okay, so then what we do is we play this and we look at the volume, and basically we only want each of these bands compressing when the vocal is at its loudest peak. So we don't want these bands compressing the whole time. So let's take a listen here. So as you can see here, this is a Sennheiser. So as you can see here, I've got an overhead microphone pointed right at me. And the first most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose and the microphone at the same time. So it's really, really close. This is one of the things that I overlooked in the beginning. I didn't realize how close you could get a microphone. Okay, so that's a really good starting point, and generally how I would approach this, like for instance, the top band here, I only want that compressing during sibilants. The next thing that I'm gonna do here is we're going to drag on the Fabfilter Pro L2 for a limiter. And what I want to happen is I want this limiter to keep the dialogue from peaking, to keep it from actually like clipping. So what I'm gonna do is, the first thing I'm gonna do is pull this output down to about 1.5 or 2 dB, somewhere in that range, and this will ensure that my audio will never clip no matter how hard I push things. I actually really like this default setting of this podcast and broadcast voiceovers. It's a really great just general setting for this, especially for how little this is actually gonna do. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this fader up here until the very peaks, the loudest parts of my vocals, just start to get just a couple dB taken off of them. Here we go. On it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose and the microphone at the same time. So it's really, really close. This is one of the things that I overlooked in the beginning. I didn't realize how close you could get a microphone and still be out of the shot. That sounds awesome to me. The other trick that I want to show you guys is talking about how I mix music. So we're just gonna drag a track in that I've downloaded. I get all my music from Epidemic Sounds. It's a sound library with which you can download stuff and use in your videos. And so this is what I use for everything. So let's take a listen to what this sounds like with music under it. So as you can see here, I've got an overhead microphone pointed right at me. And so that's obviously way too loud, it's distracting. So let's pull this music down to the point where I don't feel like it's distracting. Here we go. Overhead microphone pointed right at me. And the first most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. So that sounds pretty good to me. However, it's still competing with the vocal a little bit. So a trick that I use when the music is competing with the vocal is I actually do this EQ trick to the music. So again, we're gonna grab our Fabfilter Pro Q3, we're gonna dump it on there, on the music track, and we're going to grab and pull down a little bit here with a pretty wide band, somewhere around 2K. Just about like that, couple dB, and you wanna play around with this to taste, but I just wanna show you the technique. Then what you wanna do is you wanna go over here to stereo placement and select mid. Now what that's doing, now is a mid-side EQ, so it's only pulling those frequencies out of the center of the music. So it's leaving the sides, the left and right, exactly the same. And so Pulling this frequency range a little bit out of the mid of the music helps give us space for the vocal. Let me bypass that. Let's play it, and then I'm gonna put it back in. Overhead microphone pointed right at me. And the first most important thing is that you want it as close as humanly possible, but just out of the shot. Now, right now, it's only this far away from my nose. I can touch my nose and the So, and then again, you can play with this however much or little you want of this, but it just gives a little bit more space for the vocal. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is how I use this Tascam recorder to capture audio from Pro Tools, and you were just hearing it from that video screen recording right there. So this is how I put the audio from the computer or from the screen recordings in the videos using the Tascam. Here we go. Okay, so here you can see my Drummer monitor controller. Now this will work on any monitor controller that has multiple speaker outputs. So for this particular controller, this A goes to my Focal Trio 11 BEs. This B right here goes to my Oratone 5Cs. And I have this C output here set up to run out a couple cables, so that way it goes straight into my Tascam hard disk recorder. Now, what this means is that I can just turn off my monitors here, so there's no sound coming into the room, and then this becomes the volume going into the Tascam there. And so that works out really, really well, so that way I can just set the level very easily with this knob, and then it goes right in there and records any audio coming out of the computer. That way, that's become my favorite thing. So that is how I actually get audio for my tutorials and for this video that you watched just now. Don't forget to hit the links down below to go check out anything that we talked about in this video. Those links go to Sweetwater. I buy all my gear from Sweetwater and have for a long time now. And thank you so much, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. I very much appreciate it. So get down, hit those links, check out all the gear that I talked about in this video. So that's how I handle all the parts of the audio process in video. I hope that this helped you. I hope you picked up a few tips from this. Be sure to subscribe here. Don't forget to hit the link in the description down below to go over to the other YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.